I'm going to ask you a question. You might not be able to answer this. If you can't answer this because this is your job and a conflict of interest, I completely understand.
Sure.
Because I've been struggling. Like I've been debating about like taking just some courses to partially pass the time. Here's the question I have.
Yeah.
Right. It's not because of the teaching. It's because of the access.
Yeah.
Right. Should I be paying full price tuition right now?
So that's a fun question. Yeah, so that raises a lot of stuff.
That's why it's like if you can't answer it, I understand. Like I do understand that.
I'm totally happy to talk about it. And so and like honest, like the answer is it kind of depends on what. Like so with business courses, so like I teach in the business, so I teach in the business faculty, but once upon a time I used to be a scientist as well. So in the business faculty, like in business, like there's no labs or anything like that, right? Like in the business class, the biggest expense is really the professor, right? Because you don't have weird equipment, you don't have machines, you don't have materials, you don't have to do labs and stuff like that. The only expense you have is a guy who's at the front of the class waving his arms and stuff like that, right? So the biggest expense for like a business class is the teacher, and then an online class, and a well-run online class. So there have been a lot of people who have been complaining about professors who are doing a bad job teaching online, and that's probably very valid. But a good online teacher is still, active and is still doing stuff. So from a business class, you're still paying, the same kind of expense. And so you're like, well, you're the majority of the, instead of having the physical infrastructure, you now have the IT infrastructure. Your main cost is the professor, and he's still there. So like for some classes, like a business class, you're like, well, you can make the argument that the cost should be the same. But then there's other classes which are like hands-on classes where you have to like do a lab, or you have to like, it's like you're doing trades and you actually have to do physical stuff in a place. And when that's not happening, then it's like, well, okay, the thing you need to do to get your education is being like compromised because you're not able to do the labs, you're not able to do the hands-on skill work development and stuff like that, right? And so there, you're like, well, okay, there I might be losing out. Like there my education is being compromised a little bit, and so maybe I should be paying full price. But we don't have like we kind of have like every program costs the same tuition, even though the cost base of each program is different, right? Like the cost base of a science program is a lot higher than the cost base of a business program.
Makes sense. With lab time, room space, things of that nature, and right.
And so what we do in universities is we charge the same tuition throughout. So we make more money on the business classes, and that subsidizes. We lose money on the science classes, but the more money we make here subsidizes the science class. That's kind of because we have like this one flat tuition, no matter what program you're in. We're kind of in a situation now where with online classes, like with certain classes, you could probably argue that it's fair to pay the same tuition because it's the same work effort to get you the thing. The only difference is instead of physical architecture, we have IT architecture, and with the IT architecture, we need a whole suite of people that we have to pay to maintain that. But then there's these other programs where it's like physical hands-on, where you're not able to do that, and you're losing that, and so I could see.
So I'm going to ask a very interesting one, a second question then. Again, same thing. If you can't answer it, I totally understand. How important is the teacher experience in the classroom? Because after everything you just went through, I mean, what you just described there, it does lead to that question. How important, like, do you miss it? Has it been better or has it been worse?
Yeah. So you find, like the teacher does have a role in a classroom, right? And like it's not just like a classroom is different than just reading a textbook. Like if you just wanted, if you just wanted the knowledge, you could just read the textbook and now you have the knowledge, right? The classroom is a learning community, right? And you can learn things. You can learn different things in a learning community that you are not able to learn just by sitting around reading a textbook or reading something on the internet, right? So that and it's, the teacher creates that learning community and kind of creates, you can create mentorish kind of relationships with students and stuff like that, that allows for some, if it works well, this all depends if you have a good teacher or not, but you can learn deeper things, in a classroom environment with a teacher than you might be able to on your own. Now, a lot of that also depends sort of on the student and where they are in life, right? Like if you are, if you've already gotten a lot of education and you've got a lot of experience in life and stuff like that, you know how, like if you've learned how to learn, like, if you know how to learn, if you're independently driven, you can learn a lot just on your own. But yeah, there's something, and I found this myself as well. Like I've taken PhD work. I've done it all, and like there's like I can teach myself, but there is some things you get out of a learning community that you just can't do on your own, right? So yeah, like that class, that community is important, and I see this a lot. I see this a lot with my students. Like a lot of students do not thrive in an online environment. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some that love it. There's some that like, this is for me, like they're just wired this way and they take off like a rocket ship. But a lot of students do not thrive in an online environment. And it is really, really challenging to create a community in an online environment. Like in a classroom, it's physical, and it kind of like our brains are wired to, when we're actually physically present with people, we just form communities naturally. And it's really difficult to do that and emulate that in an online environment in a way that can be productive. Like it can be done, but it's really hard, or it's harder. It's harder. It's a different skill. And like, yeah, I see that. I see a good chunk of my students that struggle and suffer, and I'm like more so than when we're actually physically in the class.